I'll be honest with you. I think this is going to be an interesting recession. I think we're already in the recession. It's just the pandemic has really thrown off hiring. And like, let's face it, like immigration firms, if you practice primarily business immigration, like your amount and volume of work is dictated by hiring trends. If companies are hiring, a certain percentage of them are going to be foreign nationals, and a certain percentage of them are going to need visas, and a certain percentage of them are going to hire lawyers to do it. Um, when those trends reverse, or when you have companies like in layoff posture or hiring freezes, what we say is the organic growth, the growth of our clients, which propels the growth of the firm, tends to slow down or even retreat a little bit. But what's interesting about this pandemic in particular, John, is I find that jobs in and of themselves are not a fair indicator. Usually changes in job and hiring are sort of the primary indicator of what's going on with an economy in terms of growth or recession. Because of what happened with the pandemic, I think it's turned things on its head a little bit. I do kind of see this as being a white collar recession rather than a blue collar one. I think, the demands that we see on the H-2B visa program, what we're seeing with low and unskilled workers, even though there's not a lot of visa options available for them, I don't think that demand is going to go anywhere. And, frankly, I think it's a little bit artificially created because of some of the actions of the Fed and the way they've been moving benchmark interest rates. Um, but in the same respect, I think one of the things that we've seen is the economy is moving very quickly from a historic perspective. So if you imagine like hiring and terminating staff as sort of a pendulum, that the pandemic really swung that pendulum into like a hyper speed,
Hmm.
because it was like overnight everybody was laid off, except in the tech sector, which was sort of fascinating because even in June of 2020, we had less than 2% unemployment in the tech sector while everybody else was being laid off. That pendulum swung very hard this way from the end of 21 through the majority of 22, where hiring became impossible. There was nobody available last summer. Like, and we were looking for people, we couldn't find
Yeah.
anybody. And now we're seeing it kind of swing back. But like to have these sort of ups and downturns within the economy in such rapid succession to me is really unparalleled. I think that bodes well in a lot of respects, in terms of this being short-lived. I do see a lot, I read a lot of these sort of financial prognostications and what people are thinking is going to happen. My best guess is that we might see a rough Q1 and Q2, um, but things will sort of level out as we get along to the second half of next year. Fascinatingly, like maybe it's because it's the holiday season and people are slowing down making announcements and things like that, but that big rash of layoffs that we saw in November has subsided somewhat.
Well,
From a text.
there's a lot of firing right before Thanksgiving. I just
Yeah.
had an employee at a I got anonymized about a big financial firm who was on a foreign visa get fired yesterday, layoffs. So it's like it's a mixed bag. I mean, there was a lot of visible stuff happening in Thanksgiving. Now, you mentioned something about the amount of hiring in our field. Like there was a while there where I was just seeing every day someone posting paralegal position, immigration lawyer position. I still see it as kind of tapered off. It wasn't as crazy as it was 6 months ago, where every day someone's looking for an immigration lawyer. So you've noticed that kind of slowed down as well.
Oh yeah, and I mean even in our own hiring trends, because we're getting a lot more candidates per job posting than we were even 4 or 5 months ago. Like this, we're doing a little bit of an expansion hiring right now, and we've had really great candidates. I'm actually like pleased by the candidates that we're seeing, but in the same respect, it's sort of indicative of where the industry is going.
Yeah.
So, um, I think though that hiring push that we saw across all of America, like from sort of summer of 21 through summer of 22, is unlike anything I've ever experienced before running a practice.
Yeah.
I think it put a lot of pressure on immigration firms. There was a lot of people making requests for hiring. I know financially speaking, in terms of revenue and volume, it was our best period as a firm historically, just to kind of put it in perspective.
Mhm.
I think that was anomalous in some respects. And I think you have some interesting things going on within the tech sector as well, John, that's driving this. A lot of these companies that were getting a lot of additional funding because they were viewed as traditional growth stocks are no longer viewed as growth stocks, they're mature stocks.
Hmm.
The Fed raising interest rates has made money much more expensive to borrow. It makes it harder for people to invest. And I think that that's, forcing some of these companies to start doing layoffs or hiring freezes. I think it's going to be a great year for the H-1B lottery. I think we're going to have like the least amount of applicants that we've had in a long time. So for those who have been like aced out of getting an H-1B, there'll be some opportunity. But in terms of where firms are going, my best guess is like I'm looking at predicting, or at least I'm doing my budget forecasting for 2023 off of a 10 to 15% drop in revenue over 2022 levels.